I've talked a number of times, made references to my journey with weight loss and getting in shape and kind of struggles that I've had pretty much since like late elementary school with, my appearance and, uh, you know, self esteem and all those different kind of things. Um, but recently, a person who is famous, infamous, you could say, for, let's be blunt here, being really fat and eating a shit ton of food, has recently had a major transformation. And as such, I really want to talk about that, but it got me thinking about not only that, but I came across this other video we're going to go over later here. And it really, all of this got me thinking, if this guy, Nikocado Avocado, can lose all of the weight that he did, I can do it, and you absolutely can do it. But there might be some unintended social consequences and such associated with losing that weight, and we're going to discuss all of that here. Hey everyone, my name is Christian Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about, well, first, Nikocado Avocado. Now, I understand that for many people, he's kind of a meme. He's very much a lol cow, kind of person. He has been known for years for making this content where he just really sits in front of his camera with really shitty food. He seems to be obsessed with mixing Takis with noodles and stuff and doing these like insane mukbangs. That's like his big thing, these noodles and shit, but he'll do it with like fast food and all these kind of, these are just a bunch of his more recent uploads. I've watched some of these videos with like friends of mine and stuff, and not, I know a lot of people consume this stuff in kind of like a Schadenfreude way, and yeah, there is definitely a little bit of that. I'm guilty of that too. I'm not perfect, none of us are, right? But at the same time, it's kind of inspiration. I remember after showing a buddy of mine and showing my dad this, they were like, oh, well, there's inspiration to, to eat healthy, to work out, all those different things. I mean, he always looks sad in a lot of his thumbnails and such. He has a lot of these, oh, I'm breaking up, my husband or boyfriend and I are breaking up, or no, we're getting back together, or whatever the case. And he, like, his whole thing was kind of making a fool of himself and being this like gross person. He had these shirts where he wore, which were like, one of them was, so it was like, it's just water weight, it's your fault. And another one was like, I identify as skinny, which to me felt a little bit, transphobic as well. I don't know if that was the intent, but that's definitely how it came off to me. But my favorite video of his, if you want to say that, would be this one here, because the girl's pretty cute. And the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, all right, let me focus on her and not him, not this grossness. Yeah, you see right there, though, the shirt I identify as skinny. So, and he's done this thing a lot. And, as I say this, everyone already knows what happened. But, he did this thing where a lot of times he would say, like, I'm fat, I'm unhappy, I'm gonna, I'm gonna lose the weight, I'm gonna, get back to like normal health, whatever, however you want to phrase it, right? And it kind of, that was kind of one of the reasons that I wasn't subscribed to him, but I would keep up every now and be like, oh, I wonder if he's lost any weight, I wonder how his progress is going, stuff like that. And he never did, he never was, he wasn't, like, he was only getting worse. But he shocked all of us with his most recent video, 2 Steps Ahead. Now, we're going to go through this video a little bit, as much as, I don't know, I feel like, I guess, because, well, you'll see.
2 steps ahead. I am always 2 steps ahead. This has been the greatest social experiment of my entire life. It's alluring, it's compelling, it's gripping to observe all these unwell, disoriented beings roam the internet in search of stories, ideas, rivalries, where they feel encouraged and engaged, where they involve themselves with the stories and become a product of influence. Thirsty for distraction from time unspent, spoiling their minds, yet stimulating them at the same time. It's brilliant, and it's dangerous. I feel as if I'm monitoring ants on an ant farm. One follows another, follows another, follows another. It's mesmerizing, it's spellbinding. All these little consumers, all of these lost and bored people, people consuming anything that they're told to consume. So I am the villain, because I've made myself one. And you will continue to consume these stories about me, year after year after year, for as long as I tell the internet that I am the villain. Stories that permeate and linger and infect the minds of the ants, influence the ants.
So I do want to be clear, like, I don't think he's well. One thing that I do want to say off the bat here, and we're going to get into this a little bit more specifically as we start to tackle the other side of this, if you will. But I do want to be clear that personally, I very much believe as long as you're happy and healthy in your own skin, you're perfectly fine. Now, obviously, the weight that Nikocado Avocado was, you can't tell me that that was healthy. But, you know, a lot of people will be very, like, they think they have, like, a moral obligation to, like, make fun of people who are fat or something. As if, oh, well, that's going to encourage them to get skinny. No, it doesn't. If anything, it encourages them to be less healthy, to continue to binge and not work off of their eating and all those different things. And it's not healthy at all. Like, bullying people does not work at all. You know, what does work is providing support, offering help where you can, you know, those different kind of things. But I mean, this man had an insane transformation, like, absolutely insane. And, you know, as far as the weight loss itself is concerned, props to him. Like, honestly, I mean, you know, to go from what he was to what he is now, like, it's insane. I mean, it really is. But, you know, I think there's a level of, I don't think this started as a social experiment, as he talks about here. I don't think it started as a social experiment. I think it was more so that, you know, he got really fat and decided to lose the weight, and around that time he turned it into a social experiment. Apparently what he did was he had, like, years of videos worth of content that had been, like, kind of piled up, and he had pre-recorded, and he started releasing it to, you know, for us audience viewers to be none the wiser. And that's fine, like, whatever you want to do, because I mean, it does, because the thing is, like, it takes time. I mean, his last video before this apparently was 3 months ago. You can't do that kind of transformation in 3 months, just to be clear. And I do want to say, if you are on any journey similar to him or similar to me or anything where you are trying to get into better shape, be healthier, all those different things, understand that it is a process. It is something that's going to take time. And it's also not something that you're going to, like, do once and then you're never going to have to do again. I guess we'll just get into this now because we're kind of done with the Nikocado part. I know there's like 25 minutes of the video, but it's really just him kind of doing this Joker villain monologue. And I mean, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, he does do like another mukbang here with his bird, which, I mean, it's kind of like, dude, you're just like eating shit again. But I mean, you know, I think every now and then something like this is fine. Not this much, mind you. But, you know, I mean, whatever. Like, you know, it is what it is. But the thing is, a lot of people look at a diet, and this is what concerns me about him even doing that right there. A lot of people look at a diet as if, okay, I'm gonna, I don't know, like, in my case, you know, eat really high protein and low carbs for a week, or not a week, like a couple months, whatever. I'm gonna shed the weight, and then I can go back to eating how I didn't before. I'm gonna restrict my calorie count, or I'm gonna do whatever it is, right? All things that I've done before, by the way. I'm gonna go vegan. I've tried everything, and we'll get into that in a little bit here too. But basically, people will try different things. People will do this thing, and they'll do it for a bit, and then they'll quit, even if they have the results. And what we find is that people who do that oftentimes gain the weight back even more than they had before. Because when you are changing your diet, I kind of don't like the phrase, like, dieting, because you're not just dieting, like, I'm on a diet. It's like, you're changing your diet. Like your diet is what you eat, what you consume in your body. So really what you want to do is not focus on, like, short term, and I'm saying this as somebody who, like, I'm still going through this myself, and I'm not, like, some paradigm perfect example of this or anything. I'm well aware of that. But you're changing not just like something about yourself briefly for a short period of time. You are specifically changing this core element of you, what you eat. I mean, what you eat is just so integral and important to what you do throughout the day that you're not just saying like, okay, I'm gonna eat healthy for a little bit, and then after I've lost the weight or I've, I don't know, put on the muscle or whatever it is, I'm gonna eat like shit again. It's like, no, that's not gonna help you. You're just gonna, it's not gonna be good at all. But like I said, I am not somebody who is. Okay, so this is something that is very like important to me and something I definitely want to be able to address and go into the specifics with you guys of my journey. But I want to do that when I've actually like reached my goals. I don't feel like I'm ready to do that yet. And the person that we are going to look at somebody who has reached their goals, and I really wanted to go over this as well. So we're going to go over this right here. This is a video, and you can see in the thumbnail here and the title, Fat Phobia After Losing Weight. I mean, this caught my attention, and I think a lot of people's attention, like, right off the bat. I mean, you can see even from the thumbnail here that, yes, she was, pretty chubby, and she is not anymore. She's got a pretty good body. But let's get into it here.
Oh my god, guys, fat phobia is alive and well. Dear Lord.
You're walking on hot coals now,
Yeah, okay, so like this kind of thing, more power to her. I am not ready. I want to do this eventually, but I am not ready to do this yet. Like, I have progress pictures and images of myself, like just in my underwear and shit, or just like casually dressed, whatever, where I'm like at my worst, and I just don't feel ready to put those and be like, here, like, this is my journey, guys. I'll do that eventually, but I'm not ready for it yet. I will give some context here, and no, you know what? I'll save that for when we actually go into the video.
Hello. Quick little intro, disclaimer, trigger warning. In this video, I'm going to be discussing weight gain, weight loss, diet.
By the way, I just want to point out real quick, this is Fat Phobia After Losing Weight by Kendall Hoyt. I'll touch. Okay, I'm not going to go like deeply into this, but I will say right now, just off the bat, this is certainly not. And she's going to say like this isn't really the main thing that she talks about. She does have some of her videos talking about like weight loss and stuff. But I will say, while I like this video by her and different things, I really don't like she did this thing about like how she views dating and stuff, and I really don't like those videos. Anyway, that's just not what this what this is about. I just wanted to touch on that because I went to her channel and started checking out some of her content and was not a fan. But anyway, let's get into it.
Culture, disordered eating, etc. So if any of these topics would be triggering for you, I warn you to proceed with caution or exit out of the video now. Thank you. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing fat phobia and how my perspective has changed from being a plus size person to my current state being a straight size person. Sort of fucked up because the ironic thing is a lot of straight size people will not listen to a fat person's experience until it's coming from a skinny person. I'll get into that later in the video. It's all tied together. It all connects. So before we get into the after effects of fat phobia, let me tell you a little bit about my weight gain story. It goes all the way back to childhood, y'all. All the way back to when I was a wee girl. So I grew up with a family of 4 sisters. I was the youngest of the 4. So in a household of all sisters, there was a lot of emphasis placed on our looks and our appearance. I'm not going to dive into the whole history of the traumatic relationship that I have with my mother, but in our family, she was really the driver of making our looks our #1 priority. A lot of
So I'll actually take this time to just, say my own stuff as well here. My experience with weight gain was basically that. So it was very different from her experience here. For me, it was so like I was an only child. I mean, I had and have 2 half sisters, but I myself was an only child. I mean, I was raised as an only child, effectively. It's a complicated thing in and of itself, but my parents, especially my mom, always kind of like, well, I would say both my mom and dad kind of like played around with the idea of like getting healthier and losing weight and all these different things. My mom always had like exercise equipment she bought from QVC and HSN, and she was big on QVC and HSN in general, but she bought a ton of stuff from that, did a ton of things involving that, would buy like these, Atkin diet things and this Nutrisystem and all these different things, like all this stuff. And smart ones, I grew up with a lot of like Michelinas, like a lot. I grew up with a lot of like healthy, like healthier frozen foods in the house, if that makes sense. Like Weight Watchers, things like that. And that's still kind of what I typically eat to this day. But we would have these kind of things in the house. My mom did very much fixate on appearance in general. And I mean, for me, like, my appearance is extremely important to me. She had a saying, I very much agree with it, you have to look good to feel good. I think that's true for me. I think I've touched on this before in other videos, that I'm personally very vain. And again, I want to say, if you yourself are not vain, if your appearance is not like extremely important to you, more power to you. Like, genuinely, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, I am this way, but if I could not care about it as much, would I change that? You know what I mean? I don't know, but what I do know is that it's the way I am. I do very much care about my appearance. I'm very picky about like my hair, my clothes, my just overall demeanor in general, all those different things. So I get it. I understand the placing so much value on your own appearance and things of that nature. I totally get that. But and we will, like I said, we'll get to this more in a minute here. But I just wanted to touch on that. Like, my experience is kind of the opposite, I would say, of hers. Because like, well, we'll continue on, and I'll interject again when it comes up.
That is how she directly interacted with her daughters. And another piece of that is how she treated herself. She found validation in her looks. She was a very small lady, stayed skinny the majority of her life, worked out, and maintained the disordered eating of every mom in the early 2000s. Growing up, I remember we used to have tons of diet food in the cabinets, like Skinny Cow. We only had like Skinny Cow ice creams and, Weight Watchers frozen meals, that kind of thing. Food in our household was very limited. And I felt a deep sense of shame about eating from a abhorrently young age. I have a hard time remembering a lot of my childhood, but some pieces that stick out to me about eating is I would army crawl on my hands and knees to the snack cabinet to get food because I knew I'd be reprimanded if my mom saw me getting food. I developed some very sneaky habits to try and hide my eating. And this is when I was a child. I was growing. I was very much a normal size, and to be frankly honest, I was neglected and needing some sense of fucking comfort. So food it was. I would do things to try and hide my eating, like shoving wrappers down into couch cushions, or like layering trash on top of wrappers so no one could see. A lot of heavy, shameful habits that I developed at an early age. Fast forward.
Yeah, so that's part of the issue right there. And I think she gets into this a little bit later. I watched this a couple days ago, but I don't remember everything, of course. You have to have a healthy relationship with food. This idea that a lot of people have of like, oh, there's good food and there's bad food, there isn't. Like, there are foods that are better for you, especially in a larger consumption, a larger quantity, than there are foods that are worse for you in a larger quantity. Like, okay, you can have like a lot more grapes, for example, than you can cookies. For like, the grapes are going to be less calories. They're going to be less calorically dense, obviously. But I understand that mentality to an extent of like, so I never was like ashamed of food or anything. Like, I mean, again, we'll touch on it a little bit when we get to it. But I mean, I did have shame as far as like, for like wanting to lose weight. Like, I remember being in an office that I used to work at, and I got a salad for lunch, and I thought like, I was kind of like self-judging, and I guess thought other people would judge me for like, oh, look at him trying to be healthy, trying to get skinnier. Like there was a sense of shame in wanting to become better in the first place. It was like a weird thing. But I think for me, I was in denial until like 7th or 8th grade. And one thing I want to touch on as well is that genuinely, being a cis-het male it's a much different experience than it is being a woman. Like, women are often, just in many different ways, not scrutinized so much more for their weight than men are. And I mean, growing up especially, like, that must be killer. it wasn't fun for me, but I mean, it must be so much worse as a woman. I mean, I've known women who have struggled with this kind of thing, and I've known, like, I had a friend who was very obese, and she didn't have a healthy relationship with food either. She had a point where her mother, like, locked the freezer so she couldn't get to the food, and I think that there were things like that that her mother did out of a way to try to help her, but it really didn't help. I mean, it's not, like, obviously it's not going to help, but I mean, you have to have a healthy relationship with your food, and if you're a parent, you have to teach your kid to have a healthy relationship with food. You don't want them eating trash all the time. One of my big things too was I wasn't athletic at all. I don't think this girl was either. Kayla, I think her name is. But we'll get to that as we continue on here. But I mean, it really is as simple as calories in, calories out. It's just doing that's difficult. But again, we'll continue on with the video, and I'll get to that stuff when we continue on here.
A little bit to the end of middle school, beginning of high school. My parents are getting a divorce. Anyone in my personal life will tell you one of the worst divorces people have seen go down in history. Parents had a very toxic, tumultuous relationship. They separated multiple times, but this was the final one. And at this moment, it was sort of like a mental break for my mom, and she was never the same since. Point being, I had an incredibly unstable home life throughout high school, and I moved out of my childhood home, was going back and forth to different apartments. Parents hated each other and were in court for years, and received some pretty severe abuse at the hands of my mother. So dealing with this intense amount of stress at the ripe age of 12, 13, 14, 15, I began to rely heavily on food for any sense of comfort. So funny. I'm sorry, I feel like this is a therapy session a little bit right now, but it gives me a lot of anxiety to talk about, but it's important to talk about, so.
Yeah, so one thing I do want to say right there is, she says, I feel like this is a therapy session. I've thought about this before, and I'm thinking about this, ironically, as I do this now, even, that I realize that and I think a lot of people, any kind of, like, performers or entertainers or public figures or anybody that, like, puts himself out there in any way to an audience like this can run the risk of, like, treating their audience as their therapist. I want to be clear. I have a therapist. I think she does too. I don't think she's looking for, like, therapy kind of thing from, like, her audience, and I'm not looking for that from you guys either. I don't think that stuff would be right. But what I hope, and what I'm sure she's hoping for and has seen in return, is that when people like us share our stories, that we're inspiring people and yes, helping people to relate to us as well, but more or less inspiring, because you have to have that, like, you have to have, like, all of those levels of the story to be able to be inspired. And I think that even with me, although I said I'm not ready to do the kind of video she's doing, I still feel like there's validity in sharing my journey thus far, and maybe even my plateau that I've been stuck in for the past, like, 2 years now is also relatable and will be helpful to you guys watching as well. So I just wanted to kind of say that, because I don't ever want it to be like I or anybody else that does this kind of thing are, I don't know, like, using our audience for therapy or something. That's not the point. But anyway, just continuing on.
We'll get through it. Also, at this time, my dad used to be the breadwinner, so my mom would have to go in and work. And sometimes we just wouldn't have food in the house. So when there was, I would be scarfing it down and holding onto it for dear life. So as I was going through this really intense home life situation, I think I gained a little bit of weight, but also you're going through puberty, you're ugly, you have acne all over your face, things are changing, your body looks different. I don't think it was anything necessarily majorly out of the norm. I have this one memory from high school when I went to
Yeah, so for me, just real quick on that, it was end of elementary school to, like, beginning of, so I had a very different situation where, like, until it was about 7 or 8, I think, I weighed like 40 pounds for years. I remember I used to go to my grandma's, and she would always, after a meal, she would have me get on the scale, and she'd go, "Oh, he's 40 pounds, 40 pounds," like, always. And then eventually I started, gaining weight more and more, and about, like, 10 or 11, I think, was when I started to, like, actually become, like, a little bit chubby and, like, pudgy and stuff. And I was in denial about it for a long time. I refer to, like, this period of my life, like early middle school and stuff, as, like, the dark ages, because I don't even have any images of myself from back then. I was a mess. I mean, I had, like, terrible acne. I was super overweight. I wasn't like a, I don't know, like a walking, like, beach ball or something, but I was yeah, I was much rounder than I would have wanted to be. Um, my hair was a mess. It was much longer, and it was. I also didn't use hairspray yet or anything. But again, I'm just, you know, eventually I'll be able to, well, not show you those pictures, but show you like things in general that I've like my journey with all this. But yeah, no, I mean it was rough. Like I totally understand where she's coming from, and if any of you are going through or have gone through something similar, like I totally get it. And I mean, I want you to know that you're not alone.
To the doctor for my physical, and it was time to get weighed. She took a look at the number and she said, "Well, you've always been sort of chubby, haven't you?" Holy shit! The amount of uncalled comments I have received in my life about having some fat on me is woo, zooey mama. Holy shit! I cuts deep to this day. My senior year of high school, I cut off contact with my mom, moved in permanently with my dad, which was a calmer scenario, so it sort of gave me a breath a little bit. So I was
I can't imagine. Also, you do notice right now, I'm sure from the picture she's flashing on the screen, she wasn't chubby at the points that she's mentioning, like at all. Um, we'll get to that, but I can't imagine a doctor just. I mean, I feel like they would say that in a way, like when they would say that, they would mean as in, well, this is normal for you, like you're not unhealthy, this is just kind of how it is. But at the same time, it's like, really, dude? Like, you're just gonna come out and say, like, oh, well, you've always been chubby? Like, all right, that's cool, dude. Like, that's kind of fucked, you know what I mean? But, yeah, I don't know.
able to go to the gym more and sort of be more conscious about my eating. All right, we've gone through all of the background stuff of sort of where my mindset was going into college, which is where I gained weight significantly. I graduated high school in 2016 and went to UMass Amherst, which, lucky for me, was the #1 in dining out of all universities in the United States. The food was great, I'm not gonna lie, it was very delicious. On Halloween, we had lobster, which was crazy. And, everyone jokes about the freshman 15, freshman 20, however much weight you gain in college, and that definitely happened to me. I certainly gained some weight just getting used to the cafeteria-style dining all the time, and nobody really talks about it, but going to college is a little bit of a jarring experience. Suddenly you're away from home, where my home life, first of all, wasn't stable at all. My parents were not reliable for any emotional availability, and you're thrust into this literal zoo of thousands and thousands of other 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. Personally, that's not an environment I particularly thrive in. In retrospect, I think it was very stressful for me, so thus the eating would continue. Also, when I joined college, I ended up rushing a sorority because I wanted some sense of community. At that time in my life, it seemed like a good way to make girlfriends, and my current friends are still from that sorority, but overall, the sorority experience for me was horrible. I ended up being put in an executive position at 19 years old, called personnel chair or standard.
Okay, so just real quick, my experience with this, I didn't go to college. I was going to go to a college that was supposed to be for like music and performing arts and stuff. It was more. It was a. I guess you could call it like a Christian private college of some sort. When I got there, I kind of found out that it was more about worship leaders for on stage at church rather than people that wanted to be recording artists. Like I wanted to do like Reliant K, Switchfoot, Thousand Foot Crutch, these kind of people. But they were looking not for that kind of thing, and I also just wasn't really good at what I was trying to do. So, it just didn't happen and work out for me. So I ended up basically immediately from high school going directly into the work. I'd say directly into the workforce, and I specifically I left home at 19, moved in with a roommate, and how it relates to dieting is, so it's very interesting for me because at the end of high school I lost, well, yeah, like right at the end of high school, probably the end of high school, I think I had a bit of a growth spurt, and I was running like every day, ran like 2 miles a day through my neighborhood, and I lost a lot of weight. I really slimmed down, and that was great. And because growing up, I never did any sports. I've never been into anything athletic. It's just not my thing, and it is something that I wish was my thing, something that I did enjoy doing, because maybe if I did play sports, I would have, I don't know, had more social experiences, or I would have had more of a natural reason there to like stay in shape and be in shape in the first place and all these different things. But it is what it is. So I'm trying to think exactly. Yeah, it was like right at the end of high school. So like I had a friend who worked at Taco Bell, and he would make me food from there like pretty much anytime I saw him there, and he would always bring food back. He also became one of my roommates at one point, so he brought a lot of Taco Bell back, and I ate a lot of Taco Bell, and I realized at a certain point, like, I'm eating like shit, but I'm not really like gaining weight. Well, what I didn't realize at the time was that because I had stopped running at this point, but I also worked a job that I was well, not literally constantly, but for a pretty large portion of the day, I was outside collecting carts and pushing them back into their corrals at in parking lots, which unironically was kind of one of the best. Well, I mean, not that part specifically, but just it was a good form of exercise that was it came very naturally to me. It was very easy to do, easy to keep up with. I enjoyed it well enough. It was cool, but you know, and I wasn't outside all the time at this job. I did work another one where I was outside all the time pushing carts all day. That's all I did, and it sucked. Also because it was on a major incline. If you can believe we actually have those in Florida, it's not all flat. We do have some inclines, and it was horrible. But you know, that's not what this is about either. I'm just getting sidetracked here. The point is, you know, I ate like shit, and I originally wasn't really doing that much. There was a point where I always wanted to do this since I was a kid. I wanted to take like not Chex Mix, but like you know those like mixed bags where like they have some Doritos, some like you know just different kind of chips together, and like pour a bag of those in a bowl and have those as like cereal, except instead of milk, you're having soda. So like chips and soda mixed together, like cereal and milk. I finally got to try it because you know it's free. I was living on my own, you know, all that stuff. Um, I had one bite. I didn't like it. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But you know, I would do these things. I would go out a lot with friends. I had two girlfriends back to back where I took them out to a lot of different places, and our dates were mostly like, you know, I mean, quite frankly, most of them were just like going out to eat. Like that was really all we did. I mean, you know, obviously there were you know other things involved when you're dating, but as far as like going places and stuff, it was really just going out to eat. That was the main thing we did. And there was a point where this one girl that I was dating who was had a similar like experience to me with all of this. Her and I both kind of around the same time slimmed down a bit, and you know that was pretty cool. But we were each other's worst enemy when it came to like you know staying in shape or at least staying slim. My God, I remember we used to like you know we'd get our own meals, we'd finish our own meals, and I normally like just finish like I have half of a meal and take the rest home when I go to a restaurant. But with her, I didn't want her to feel bad for eating more than me, being a woman. You know, I knew that was like kind of something, you know. So I would continue eating if I saw that she was still eating, and that wasn't good. Like that fostered unhealthy habits in us both, and it wasn't a good, you know. But yeah. So I mean, we had this whole thing where we would have our own meals, our full meals, and then like I remember we went to like Red Lobster or something and got this like giant sundae thing, and each had our own, and it was like what the like. Eventually got to a point where I remember we like sat down and had a conversation about it. I was like, what? I'm like, babe, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we like? We're both eating like shit, and like we both knew it, and like we both talked about it and everything. And she was always concerned about her weight. I was concerned about mine. So it was like, okay, we need to we need to be healthier about this. We need to not, you know. And the main thing we did was just smaller portions, and we were good about that. We were really good about like controlling our portions and stuff after that. But you know, even after our breakup and everything, I had tried to get back into being healthier again. I tried to get back into like eating better and going for a run, but like I was always wanting to do other things. I was always wanting to like, you know, at this time I was very big on like I still wanted to be an actor and musician. That's what I was passionate about. You know, so I would like do things like that. I was like, well, I gotta like work on my album, or I gotta like do this, or I gotta do that, or like, you know, and I wouldn't really want to run to do these things. And it was just so easy, especially with friends around and stuff, to get like sucked back into horrible eating habits. Especially when, like, now I'm 21 and like we're having drinks and stuff all the time, and all these things, and it's like it caught up with me, is my point. And so I totally understand how, like, with her, like, you can easily do those kind of you can easily get to this point where it catches up with you. And for me, well, we'll continue the timeline as she does here. I'll get to the next part in a bit.
If you're familiar with that from your own Greek life experience. But basically, that person is in charge of all of the rules of your organization, getting people in trouble when they weren't following the rules, having meetings with people to discuss like better plans, and if they weren't meeting their financial obligations, how would we make a plan to make that happen? It was just an immense responsibility to put on a 19-year-old in charge of 130 other sorority women, and I had a really hard time with it. I know you're probably wondering, why didn't you leave?
Jeez, is that how big a sorority is? I've heard that like sororities and frats have a lot of people, and I've also heard that people can make really good friends that way. So I mean, hey, more power to you. But like, is it really that many? 130? I thought frats were like 25 to 50 people max. I don't know, like I said, I've never been to college. My closest experience to college is like hearing about it from other people and like seeing it in movies. That's it.
It just didn't feel like an option. All my friends, all my social activities were through this organization, so I felt like I had to stay. But I was crying all the time. At this time in my life, I started to gain weight quite rapidly. And where I sort of topped off with my weight gain is when I studied abroad in London. So this was my second semester, junior year. I'd always wanted to study abroad, so I decided to in London. And unfortunately, it wasn't the best situation. I didn't necessarily find my place with any people I was vibing with. I was drinking heavily. I was doing an unpaid internship at a very toxic environment.
Yeah, she mentions drinking heavily, by the way. That is one that will fucking destroy will cause you to gain weight like nothing if you don't pay attention to how much you drink. Like, I'm not saying you can't have like a glass of wine or a beer or like a fruity drink or something like every now and then. Like, you do you. But you cannot lose weight if you're going to be drinking like all the time. It's just not going to happen. It's just, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with like, okay, have a drink like, once a week or something. Like, okay, that's fine. But like, if you're going out to like bars every night or something and you're just knocking them back and stuff, you're gonna fuck yourself up.
On top of doing classes, I was paying for everything all by myself, so it was very stressful. I'm in a whole new country, I'm broke, I'm trying to pass my classes, I'm trying to manage my life. I think at this point in my life, I got up to a 2X, I want to say. It's so hard when your clothes aren't fitting you anymore. I bought some Madewell jeans, which at the time for me was a very expensive pair of jeans, and they ripped while I was in London, like in the thigh, and I was like, oh my god, I can't afford a new pair. There's so much that goes into gaining a lot of weight. At this time,
I experienced that, I think, with like dress pants I wore for work. I had to, I don't know if it was I don't remember how it happened, but like I noticed that like the inner seam ripped, and that's humiliating, absolutely. And again, like, I'm well aware that my experience, like, as a dude, I honestly cannot imagine how much worse it must have been for her or any woman who has gone or is going through this kind of thing. Like, I want to be clear on that. Like, I struggle with this, and I'm a dude. This must have been like horrific for her.
In my life, I also had a lot of financial stressors. Parents, if they're able, frequently help their kids throughout college. Kids don't always have to be working jobs. That was the opposite for me. I was working multiple jobs on top of my classes, and I was just so depressed. I was just going through it. I was having a really hard time. I was reeling through the after effects of my family situation, on top of taking classes, on top of maintaining a social life, on top of being in charge of the sororities rules, on top of my multiple jobs. It was just way too much stress for little old me. And in turn from all of this, I developed extremely low self-esteem. I became the ultimate people pleaser. I would be so friendly, so kind to everyone, would go out of my way to make everybody comfortable. And don't even...
Yeah, so real quick on that, don't be a people pleaser. It's so much easier said than done, but like, I have had a habit of being an enabler and being a people pleaser for a really long time. Don't do it. Like, seriously, it's not a good thing to do. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you. It doesn't, like, I kind of grew up with this mentality where I thought it was like a virtue to have low self-esteem and like put people before myself to the extent that it was hindering me. Was like, oh, that makes me a good person. No, don't do it. You can be a good person without doing those things. You shouldn't have low self-esteem. It's not good. And I say this as somebody who, like, again, I'm struggling with this, but like, again, just like, I hope it encourages you. Is all I can say.
Don't even get me started on my experience with men. As a plus size person, if you are fat, men do not give a fuck about you, especially...
I want to be clear about that. Generally speaking, as anybody who is okay, just in general, if you are not conventionally attractive, people who are conventionally attractive aren't going to care. Like, they just aren't. A lot of guys especially experience this with, like, Tinder and online dating in general. I would strongly advise against anybody who is interested in dating at all, especially if you're, I would say if you're interested in women, like, just whether you're, whatever you are, regardless of your own gender. But I mean, well, I guess if you're like a gay dude, it might be alright. I don't know. But don't, unless you are conventionally attractive, and I don't mean you have to have like a six pack or something, but like, unless you are, slimmer and like, and get good photos for the love of God, please. Like, if you can get a professional photo shoot or get someone with like a nice DSLR camera, whatever they're called, do those kind of something that where you can like present your best self in your pictures, because you're like, online dating especially is very shallow. It's shallow enough just being in the world in general, but like online dating especially is very shallow. So like, personally, I'm not even going to try online dating until I'm like, I don't know. I had a friend ask me, and this is like in regards to dating in general, but like, is there a specific weight that I want to be at? And I don't have a number. What I do know is I started at no, we'll save that. We'll get to that. But I don't have a specific number. I just know, like, I'll know it when I see it, basically. So, but, one thing I want to say about this too is like, and that's another thing. I'm really passionate about like dating and stuff, and I want to give like good practical advice that isn't like, I don't like good practical advice that isn't just like platitudes and bullshit, but also stuff that isn't like, stuff that emphasizes like respecting boundaries and consent and things like that. And I want to be able to give that kind of advice, but I can't give that. I can't make that video. I can't do, like, as I've alluded to many times before, Pick Up for Progressives. I can't make that series until I'm where I want to be and I'm like getting the results that I want with women. It's the same thing with this. Like, until I want to give advice, practical step-by-step advice, how to go from being like obese to being pretty damn in good shape and like attractive and shit. I can't give that advice until I'm there myself. And it also isn't lost on me that I know there are people who are heavier than me, heavier than her, even what she was, all these different things, and like might even be saying, "The fuck are you talking about? I'd kill to have your body." I get it. I've been there too. When you get there, you're not going to feel that way. You're gonna still feel like, okay, now I'm here. How do I progress even more? You know what I mean? Like, it's not as easy as it seems. And I appreciate that she's being very like candid and honest about this, and I'm trying to do the same thing. And I'll absolutely do the same thing when I do like an actual thing about my fitness journey, I would call it, not just weight loss, because like I do want to build up some muscle too. But anyway, yeah, like I get it, but I do want to say, like, yeah, if you're not conventionally attractive, most people aren't going to see you as a potential romantic or sexual partner. Like, I know that sucks, but that's just the way it is. And one thing I want to touch on with that is, there's a lot of guys especially who will get very mad and they're like, "Oh, women want a guy who's 6 foot and has this and da 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 da." And like, I will say from personal experience, and I even talked about this with a buddy of mine who's had similar experiences. If a girl says, like, to you especially, like, "Oh, I think you're 6 foot," or "I want a 6 foot," really what they mean is they just want someone they find attractive, generally who's going to be taller than them, because I've had girls think that I'm 6 foot. I'm 5'9". My buddy that I'm alluding to here, he's had girls say he's 6 foot when he is like at eye level with them, and it's like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. So I do want to just kind of like dispel that real quick, but also I want to say, a lot of guys that complain about that, and I understand, like, I guess being upset about that, but like, you don't want girls that you don't find attractive either. You know what I mean? Like, there's a part of dating and forming romantic or sexual relationships that is just shallow. Like, it's just how it is. Like, there's no way around that. You have to be attracted to your partner. I know that like ace people exist and all that stuff, and that's all well and good, but like for the majority of people, you have to be physically attractive in order to actually like even get your foot in the door. You know what I mean? It's like your attraction is like your resume to apply for the job of like, you know, partner, whether that's for like a night, for a weekend, for a longer period of time, whatever it might be. You know what I mean? It's how you get your foot in the door. So you know, I do just want to say that as well.
College age guys. I never got any romantic attention.
And it goes both ways. That's my point.
When I was in college, I'd be lucky if a man looked at me. It was a very traumatizing experience to not be treated like a human purely based off what I look like. I was always the fattest one of the bunch when I'd go out with my friends and we would talk with some guys at the bar. They would not face me. They would not look at me. It was extremely dehumanizing. And what else was hard about it is I couldn't relate to anyone in my life. My skinny friends didn't understand, and I don't think they ever will until you are put in that position. The only time I felt wanted by men is if it was sexually on a dating app behind closed doors. I didn't go on one date.
Yeah, so real quick on that as well. My friend that I mentioned who was like really obese, first of all, she did online dating and she like exploded. Like had tons of guys wanting to hook up with her and stuff, but no one wanted to like actually date her, and that was really rough. Also, I can't imagine like trying to talk to someone and them not even looking at you. Like, you know, I've been trying to like I said, I'm nowhere near the point where I'm ready to actually like make this series or anything, but I've been trying to like, you know, even right now, just like approach girls that I find attractive in like public spaces and stuff. And I mean, mainly at bars, like that's the main one. And I don't know if she felt this way, but the way that I feel is I'm kind of like, I don't really care about being at a bar. Like I like my friend. I've always been someone where the company is way more important than what I'm doing. So for me, it's about like my friends that I'm there with, and it's about girls that I could, you know, potentially date or hook up with or what have you, right? Girls that I find attractive that I want to approach. But for me, it's like I talk to them and like I start conversations. I'm really good at starting conversation with anybody, and as you can clearly tell, talking. Like I'm very good at like talking, yapping, whatever you want to call it. But I struggle, I think, with like actually flirting and like escalating conversation and stuff, and making my intentions clear. And that's true for friends as well when trying to like bring coworker friends outside of that to like, hey, we should actually hang out and like do something. But look, you know, these are all things that I like struggle with and I'm like working through. I just again wanted to like add my personal experience to that. I don't know why I'm like, I guess like giving that caveat all the time, because this is just what I do. So like I don't like, and you guys are clearly here for it, for my experience and my like opinions and stuff. So I don't know why I'm giving this caveat, but I don't know. I just want to, I don't know, be self-aware about it, I guess. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. But this is a problem. Like 100% people who like, they'll like, and I don't understand this because to me, so I've heard of the concept where men like, they just like it, this is a really gross way to put it, but I've heard this idea that where like men just want a wet hole. Really gross, really dehumanizing, but also like, why would you not like, why would you not, no, that's not why would you not, why would you, even if it's just casual, even if it's just a fling, why would you hook up with somebody you're not attracted to? Like, I don't understand that. I just don't get it. Like, I don't know. To me, it's like, if it's somebody that you're not attracted to, or like you can't, I don't know, find anybody attractive on like a night out or something, and you're like just getting rejected left and right or something. Dude, if you're horny, just jerk off. Like, I don't get it. Like, why would you waste your time and somebody else's if you're not even attracted to them? And I'm not, you know, I don't mean like you have to be romantically attracted to them, but if you don't even like them at all, like, you know, it's like that meme of like, or that, I don't know what you're, but you know, the saying, I guess, of like, do men even like women? And it's like, honestly, do they? Because like, I can't understand, oh, let me just hook up with this person behind closed doors so no one else knows, but like, I'm not even into them at all. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like a fetish thing and they're like ashamed of it, but if that's the case, that's like, those are personal issues you need to resolve. But if it's an issue where it's like, oh, I'm not actually attracted to them, I just want to get off, it's like, dude, like, jerk off. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know, it's just weird to me. course, I know there's like an overlap with like the no fat people and stuff with a lot of these things too. So there's also that aspect to it.
In college, I didn't date anyone in college. No one was interested. No one wanted to fucking talk to me. Point blank, period. Simple as that. I feel very sad for this previous version of myself. Now time to talk about weight loss. So while I was studying abroad, I sort of had this sit-down conversation with my sister where I couldn't stop crying. I was sort of the lowest I had ever been, extremely depressed, and I felt very physically ill. I was getting sick very frequently and it would last a very long time, and I simply had a hard time breathing. There was so much weight on me, it took a lot of effort to breathe, and that wears on your bones. Skinny people, you don't know how hard it is to be fucking fat. It isn't easy. Oh, go work out. You know how hard it is to work out when you have all that excess body weight on you and you're weak? It's very hard. So all that was just sort of catching up to me, and in that
So I have never experienced these aspects of like being heavy. Should I say now what yeah, fuck it, I'll say it now. So my worst that I had been was like 245. Like I said, I'm 5, or maybe I think I said, yeah, I'm 5'9". My worst was 245, and I started officially started my fitness journey in February of 21. I've been hovering around I got to 195 at one point, but since then I plateaued, and I've been hovering around 210, 215, somewhere around there, for the past, is it 3 years now? No, because I've been 21 to 22, so 2 years, yeah. So for the past 2 years now. I will say that I know for myself, again, I never experienced my bones hurt, or I can't get off the couch or something. Part of the reason this is so important to me as well is also not just because my own personal experience, but my family has struggled a lot with this stuff too. Honestly, I am the best in shape out of all of my family, but on my mom's side, on my mom's side at least, but I still want to be better. I want to be in even better shape. My uncle and my mom that gave birth to me both struggled a lot with their weight. My uncle would struggle to get off the couch, actually just getting off the couch. He would start breathing heavily and stuff because he was 400, close to 500 pounds, I think, at one point. It was really bad. My dad, the one that actually raised me, him and my mom, again, that raised me. So many caveats, I swear. I'm sorry, but they paid for him to get gastric bypass surgery, which worked for some time. But what he did, and what apparently a lot of people do with this, is they eat themselves, they open up the hole and they expand their own stomach. Without getting into the specifics, what gastric bypass surgery essentially does is they shrink your stomach. It goes from kind of being a bigger thing to much smaller. It's tighter and stuff. But what you can do is you can actually make it, you can force it to expand. That's what he did. That's what my biological mother did, and it's not good. It's really sad. My uncle and his wife are also feeding their daughter like shit, and I personally view that as a form of child abuse because she's way heavier than she should be. And I'm not talking about on a BMI level or something. I understand that's very outdated and all that, but she's 5 years old, I think, now, and she's wearing clothes that a 10-year-old or something should be wearing because she's that big. It's not good. But so I'm very passionate about this on a lot of different levels. It's a very personal issue to me. I don't know where I was going with that, or what I I don't know. I was just kind of going off there. I don't know. My point is that I'm very passionate about this, and but I've never experienced the worst of things that a lot of people have experienced. I think because of more sweat in some of the folds and stuff on your body, people will have more body odor and stuff. I used to have a double chin, and that's thankfully gone. I have noticed a lot of weight loss in my face, or fat loss, I guess I should say, in my face more than anything. But man, personally, and this is the level that I know where I'd feel comfortable, and I could make that video for you guys, as I say, I really want to I don't want to have man titties, like for one thing. I don't want to have a protruding stomach, which I do unfortunately have. I also have like, I guess you could say like more feminine hips and a bit of a booty. So like, I hate that shit. Um, these were things that I was kind of like made fun of, like in middle school and high school for having, and they're things that I want to get rid of and change and like slim down and become more like conventionally attractive, masculine, like all that stuff, right? Um, and a lot of it is personal because like I want to look my best self, but again, I don't have like a number or anything. I think I want to get to like 160 or something, maybe 170. I don't really know, but I know that I can definitely be better than I am, and uh, yeah, I don't. It's a journey, and we're all on our own journey, right? So, speaking of which, let's get back to her journey.
State, I sort of had a come to Jesus moment where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need to be more healthy in some aspect because it is physically and mentally paining me to continue on like this. So going into my senior year at college, I was trying to be really conscientious about what I was eating. It was still a really big challenge for me, and this was a very gradual change in weight loss, but I was able to sort of stabilize my weight and lower it by a few pounds. I have this memory of when I was at a frat party dancing with my friends, and I overheard this group of boys behind me, and one of them said, like, I'm gonna go, like, oh, she's so hot, I'm gonna go after her. And he was talking about me, and I was like, woo! Biggest compliment ever. In that moment, I felt like I won. Like, finally, they can see me now that I'm slightly smaller, which feels really disturbing to think about. And then out of nowhere, in the middle of my second semester senior year, COVID hit. I was at home from school, all my classes moved online, I wasn't seeing.
So, I just want to say real quick, I have yet to have that experience, but like, I'm really wanting that kind of experience too. Like, it's shallow, and like it's shallow for her too, but like to be recognized for your appearance, your physique, and for someone to say like, oh God, they're so hot, like I'm gonna go home with them, or like, oh, I hope he comes and talks to me, or something like that, like those kind of things. That's so like, that makes you feel so good. It makes you feel so wanted, so desired, so appreciated. And I'll be real, I haven't experienced that yet. I've had moments where I mean, I've had girlfriends and stuff before, so I've had pieces of that, but I certainly haven't had it on like a consistent level or anything. And I've had moments where I think that might have kind of happened, but I don't really know. So I don't know, but no, I mean it is. It's very empowering. It's very like you feel great when you like when that kind of thing is told about you. But there is kind of a, I don't know, a dark side to that, I guess. So we're gonna get to here.
Seeing anybody anymore. And though COVID was an absolute worldwide tragedy, for me personally, it really gave me that break I needed to reevaluate myself, really dive into mindfulness, and figure out a way for me to actually lose the weight. And the main way for me was a caloric deficit. If you're not familiar with what a caloric deficit is, that's basically when you are eating less calories than how much you're burning a day. It is very easy to not understand how much you're actually eating until you're tracking it. Tracking your calories can be a very slippery slope, so I do want to warn you, if you get obsessive about things, maybe calorie tracking isn't the best option for you. So when I was at home, and
So one thing, okay, so two things I want to say about that is, first of all, I totally relate. For me, it was like 2020. I kind of took the entire year to really reflect. It was how I deconstructed my religious beliefs, how I started to get more like interested and involved in political stuff, and ultimately kind of become more left leaning. It was how I really kind of came to terms with what I wanted for my life, and that the direction that I was going was not going to bring me where I wanted to be at all. I wasn't anywhere I wanted to be with my looks, with my career, with girls. I didn't have a girlfriend for years. I didn't like since 2018 at that point. Well, okay, so like I hung out with this girl for a while from like end of 2018 to 2019, beginning of 2019, and I when I asked her out, she thought we were already dating. So I guess technically, like I dated her too, but I've been single since, and it's when I came to terms that like specifically what I was looking for, and part of that being that she had to have my same like religious beliefs, how much that hindered me in finding a partner. I reevaluated that. I reevaluated a bunch of different things, 2020 was really just the year for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, of like a lot of growth and like, yes, like there were horrible things with like COVID and all that stuff, but there were also a lot of, I think, good things for a lot of people personally that came out of it. You know, toward the end of 2020 was when I decided to like really kind of change up my appearance and my goals and like what I wanted to do with my life and all those different things. I didn't settle on like doing this kind of content for a good while after that, but it was a very formative year, very transformative year. So I totally get where she's coming from with that. But I do want to touch on that thing about calorie tracking. So I use an app, and I think she's going to talk about it as well. Excuse me, called MyFitnessPal. I like MyFitnessPal. I think MyFitnessPal is, I think it's great. I also agree with the caloric deficit part. I do think it's going to be different if you're a woman than if you're a man, generally speaking, or at least if you're a male versus if you're a female. But I think that in general, I don't really see. I've heard some people talk about this, like you can become obsessed with calorie tracking. I don't really see how that could be a bad thing, because the only thing that being obsessed with calorie tracking is going to do is make it so that you are going to refuse to eat anything unless you can track it, which is a lot better than what I would imagine many people do, and I know I myself do, where I will track the majority of what I eat, but I always go at least a little bit over. I'm trying to eat around like 1,500 calories right now, but I always go a little bit over, I think, because like there's a handful of stuff that I just don't track. If anything, I'd rather have the other problem where like I refuse to eat unless I track it. You know what I mean? But I try not to go like too overboard on stuff, but it's, you know, it's tough. I'm also not great about like being consistent about actually going to the gym, which is definitely something you. I mean, I guess it's something you have to do necessarily, but I'd recommend it. I'd recommend, or some kind of workout, whether it's like calisthenics or it's like going for runs like I used to, any of those things. But like, I have learned as well that having more muscle will actually help you burn more fat, because the more muscle you have, the harder it is to actually gain fat in the first place. So there's also that aspect to it. But you know, in any case, moving on once again.
Stressful environment, not working a job, the entire world was quiet, I could really hyper-focus on my weight loss journey and exercise. Now listen to me very carefully. You need to be in a place of privilege to lose weight. So in this example, I was back living at home. I wasn't going to school. I didn't have a job. I had a large amount of time and energy to focus on weight loss and health and my fitness. As I started to lose the weight, people began noticing. And in my entire weight loss journey,
I very much agree with this. Yes. Honestly, being attractive in general, but weight loss and things of that nature in general, yeah, like a lot of it does revolve around having like the time and the money to make yourself look that way. Like it just does. It really just does. You know, I mean, I like, let's be real here. I'm working a full-time job. If I was doing this and like this was all I did, and I could go to the gym whenever I wanted, I would easily. I'm sure I would have a much easier time keeping up with a consistent gym schedule. You know, I'm sure it would be easy to do these things. I do want to, but you know, but as far as time goes, like I also agree that, you know, we make time for the things that are important to us. So you do just have to make the time a lot in a lot of cases, but it's also much more difficult if you like, you know, have kids or you're working multiple jobs, or like, you know, there are many different factors that go into it. I say these things because I don't want you to like give yourself an excuse not to do the things you need to do to like get into better shape, but I also want to make it clear that I understand the struggles that are there with that weight loss and things of that nature. So I get it, is my point. I get it. But when you're I one thing that I want to like speak against is this idea that like it has to cost a lot of money to eat healthy. It can, depending on what you get, but it doesn't have to, especially if you're just focusing on a caloric deficit. Quite honestly, I get the majority of my meals from the Dollar Tree, because most meals that they have at the Dollar Tree are under 300 calories. What I'm trying to do personally right now is have like you know, 300 calories or less per my meal. And you can find substitutes for all kind of different things too, like you can find you know, diet soda or Coke Zero or whatever, all these different things in place of, you know, some other stuff. If you're insisting on like you have to have the best of the best, top of the line, like all the high protein or the vegan food or the whatever it is, it's like, okay, well then yeah, then you're gonna like, yes, it's gonna get expensive. But there are ways to do this where you're not breaking the bank all the time. So yeah.
This was probably the most painful part. The majority of people in my life had something to say about it. People would say, Kendall, you look so much younger. You're so beautiful now. People would start to do general acts of kindness. They would hold the door for me. They would smile at me as we passed by. Generally, the public would just treat me better in a smaller body. And the reason
They will. Yeah, they will.
it was so painful is because I had only really understood the previous treatment I was experiencing in college, so the ignoring, the looking through me. So to have it come true, to have people treat me better when I was losing weight was the biggest slap in the face. It felt like I was betraying a previous version of myself. I was so frustrated that people couldn't see that that plus size person was the same as me. And why would you ever treat anyone differently based on their size? As someone who was plus size and just has a general sense of empathy, I would never treat anyone differently ever. But damn, this fat phobia got a grip on society. Holy crap. I had to have a conversation with my
So I'm going to be real about this. We do absolutely, definitely, generally treat people who are just better looking in general, right? You know, there's the halo effect. We treat people who are better looking better, typically. But I'm going to be real with you. One of the reasons, especially that like guys will like hold doors open for you and stuff like that and just go out of their way to be nicer to you now that you're more conventionally attractive, just being as crass and honest about this as possible. And don't get me wrong, it's true for guys as well. Like I'm sure when I do, and I've experienced this before, but to an extent, but like I'm sure when I slim down and get in shape and all these things and you know, guys in general experience this kind of thing, like they're being so nice to you because they want to fuck you. Like just to be as bluntly honest as possible, even if it's not like like they're thinking it, they're like directly like, oh, like I want to, you know, but it might even just be a subconscious thing, you know, be kind, be like all these different things to the person who this attractive person, because like, you know, monkey brain says reproduce with those genes. You know what I mean? Like it's not even necessarily like a malicious like, oh, I'm not saying like anytime a guy holds the door open or whatever, it's like, oh, they're thinking like, oh, I want no, it's just like it's like programmed in our brains, you know what I mean? So I mean, you know, just like human evolution and stuff like that. But you know, I imagine that it sucks, but it's also like it is what it is. You know, people are kinder to people who they deem as more attractive. That's just, you know, just the way it is. I don't think it should be that way. Like we shouldn't, you know, again, you shouldn't like you especially shouldn't be mean to people who are like, you know, overweight or what have you. But like generally speaking, yeah, you're gonna have people treat you nicer when you're more attractive. Like that's just facts. That's just how it is.
my dad actually, who was commenting on my weight loss and etc. I told him like this validation of my weight loss feels like you wouldn't love me no matter what size I would be. Like I'm only lovable if I am size 8 and below, which was a hard thing to say, but it's truly how I felt. Losing weight really wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. It was more like a slap in the face of, oh, this is how I could have been treated the entire time, or oh, this is how society viewed me and how society views fat people. It felt really horrible, and I will never forget that experience. So during COVID time, 2020, 2021, I lost a bit of weight, went back down to a strong size large, I would say, and then I moved out to Boston for a year, and then I moved to New York City, which is where I've been for the past 2 years of my life. And since I've moved to New York,
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, first of all, like, you know, she looks great here, like, you know, but I don't know, like, I feel like, and again, I get it, different experience as a man, but I feel like, you know, so okay, I've had people say, for example, like, oh, I can tell you've been working out, like, you know, I can see a little bit of muscle on you or stuff, which I appreciate. I don't really see it myself, but I appreciate. Um, you know, but like I think that for me personally, when I have those like, you know, validating comments or just those validating things happen in general, that like for me it's gonna it makes me feel better. Like, oh, you look, I don't, yeah, you look better, you look younger, you look whatever, like all those different things. Um, you know, I think that is, I don't think that would be a slap in the face. Again, it does suck, but it's kind of the same thing where it's like, you know, with attraction and with like flirting and stuff in general, it sucks that we have to play a certain game. Like, just to touch on it real quick here, I would love to live in a world with, as far as like, you know, flirting and stuff goes, where we could just like go to people, anybody that we find attractive, and just like upfront tell them like we find them attractive and just like take it from there. And people could do that regardless of gender or sexuality. But it's not the world we live in. Similarly, yes, it would be great if everybody just, I don't know, I don't want to say treated everybody the same as far as like, you know, weight loss, but it's just like, yes, it sucks that like you have these disadvantages when you're heavier set, and you have more advantages when you are, you know, more conventionally attractive, thinner, like all those different things. But it's just the way it is. You know, it's like, you know, it's a great example of where we can argue for and advocate and try to like shift things in a different direction, but in the meantime, we still have to play the game by the current rules. So, you know, yeah. But I mean, you know, I can understand what she means, especially that feeling of like wouldn't be loved unless she was thinner. So, but I imagine the dad didn't mean it that way. But you know, I totally understand why she would feel that way.
New York City, I think I've had another layer of weight loss. Living in the city has really forced me to be more of an active person, which I actually love. I live on the top of a 6th floor walk up.
Oh, if it weren't for the subtitles, I thought you said it made me be a more vapid person. I was like, oh god, and then she was like, which I actually love. I'm like, oh god, but okay, active person. Okay, great.
I walk a mile to get my groceries. You know, you're just sort of walking, biking everywhere. So that on top of really figuring out my personal mental health, I got on antidepressants this past year. I didn't realize I was so
Yeah, being in a walkable city would be really good for this kind of thing too. I live in a, I don't, not a suburb, but like, it's not a walkable city that I live in. I definitely have to like get in my car to like get groceries and stuff. So it's not great.
depressed, and they've been helping me tremendously. An absolute life-saving drug. I've also had that separation from my family, which I have really needed. I didn't realize how neglected I was by my parents, and I've really been coming to terms with that in therapy and sort of actually healing.
Also, clearly, there's a lot of, similar to me, right? Similar to all of us, right? There's a lot of you know, trauma and issues outside of the weight loss specifically that she's dealing with as well, which I am as well. Like everybody is, but yeah. So it's not all about the weight loss.
From those childhood experiences and being completely independent, not having to rely on anyone, has really freed my mind. And most recently, I have been loving yoga. I have the studio near me that I absolutely adore, and I try and go as much as I can. So that's another way that I am moving my body. So again, I don't know how much weight I've lost in this entire journey, but like now my top is medium. Sometimes I can fit into mediums on the bottom half of me. That is where I'm at weight loss wise. Weight will always fluctuate, guys. I'm sure I will be bigger again. I'm sure I might be smaller. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, people tend to like, you know, fluctuate around like 5 to 10 pounds. So I mean, one thing that I would say as far as like getting to your like ideal weight or what have you, don't freak out if you like you gain like, I don't know, like I said, 5 to 10 pounds, you lose 5 to 10 pounds, like all that. That's not really going to make much of a difference as far as your appearance goes in the first place. But you know, I mean, if you are focused specifically on that number, I would say don't do that, but like focus more on like how do you look and how do you feel about yourself. Those are the more important things.
All right, so now that you have the history of my weight gain and my weight loss, let's talk about the after effects. One of the first immediate things I noticed as I lost the weight was the attention from men. Boy, did it increase. Numerous boys from my high school started sliding in those DMs. Popular boys who would not look my direction when I was fatter, and they were hitting. They wanted a piece of me. And since that time when I initially lost weight and have really grown on my social media and developed my personal style, gotten good at makeup, my hair, etc., the attention from men has really increased. No secret that people are now attracted to me. It is just the complete opposite experience of what I had from when I was fat. But I was fat.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
In those very formative years. So when I developed that really low self-esteem, that has stuck with me despite my outward appearance changing. So what does that mean for me in dating? That means I don't know how to make a boundary. I accept horrible treatment because I've never even been looked at before. I'll take anything that I can get. So it's
Yeah, that's not good. So, and I will say, yeah, I've kind of experienced that too. I mean, my ex-fiance, who I've mentioned before, like that was not good at all, and that was very much something where if I had healthier experiences before that, I probably would have like known my worth more. You definitely need to know your worth, like just in general. And one thing I will say is, like getting in shape or getting a partner or whatever it might be, or like having your hoe face, as people call it, any of that, none of that is going to like make your self-esteem better and like just fix everything. Those are aspects that can, but none of it is going to be like the magic pill and like, oh, everything's better now. It's like, no, you still have like your trauma and stuff you have to work through. I do think that there's a phrase that not my therapist, but the guy that created the therapy. I use a Healthy Gamer GG coaching, and I refer to that as my therapist, even though it's not actually therapy, but you know it's close enough. Dr. K from Healthy Gamer GG has a phrase where he says like, it's something like, you're not depressed, you have shit life syndrome, and like that's what I feel, and I think a lot of people are in that boat where like you don't have anything like clinically wrong with you per se or anything. It's just that you don't like the way your life is, and that's perfectly valid. So like you can change that, and there are aspects with this where you can change your life, you can change, you know, who you are and things of that nature. But and those things might I should say actually will very likely work to, make you happier in a lot of ways. I know that for myself, when I did look, well, by my standards, when I did look better, when I was thinner, and I had like a pretty healthy social group, and I was dating and all that, like I definitely felt better about myself because I had all those needs being met. And now I struggle. you know, I do. I struggle a lot with a lot of different things, and I'm working through it. But it is what it is. So, but I do just want to say that it's not going to just like fix everything for you. But I also want to say that don't be surprised. So this will happen again with guys where like they'll have a girl who like will friend zone them or whatever it is, or just reject them, and then they'll like have their glow up. They'll get in shape. Maybe they'll make maybe they'll make more money. Maybe they'll do whatever it is, right? But they'll have a glow up of some sort, and then now all of a sudden, this girl that didn't want anything to do with them before, or only wanted to be friends or whatever, is now like wanting to date them, wanting to hook up with them, all these different things. And guys get offended by this. It's like, well, what the fuck? Like, why didn't you like me before? It's like, all right, nice guy. Like, bro, you weren't hot. Like, it's as simple as that. Yes, if you're hot, if you're attractive, people are going to want you. It really is as simple as that. I very much believe that the difference between the friend zone, which I don't really think is a real thing, it's just, it's more of like it's just someone that doesn't find you attractive. It's just unreciprocated attraction. But the difference between that and somebody who you're dating and or hooking up with or whatever it might be is simply just attraction. Like that's all it is. It's just mutual attraction. When you have that mutual physical attraction, you're good. Like then you have a relationship. But like until that, you're like, yeah, you're just friends because there's nothing there. You're not like turning each other on. You know what I mean? So you got to be, or at least you're not turning them on, or whatever it might be. So yeah, you gotta work on that. But I don't think that you should be like surprised or like mad because people didn't like you when you weren't hot, and then now you're hot and people like you. It's like, well, yeah, of course they do. Like, duh. Like you're doing the same thing. You're not giving attention to people that you find unattractive. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's insane. So again, I get what she's talking about here, but it's just like, yeah, of course people all of a sudden are like sliding in her DMs and stuff. You're hot now. Like, what do you like? Of course, duh.
Attracted some not so satisfactory men into my life. There's another big piece of me that has felt so rejected that I'm so hypersensitive now to any like slight dismissal. So when I go out with my friends who happen to be smaller than me and the attention is on them, I feel such a deep sense of hurt. And I don't look that much different than them. But it always feels like men will choose the skinniest girl in the room. It's a really weird experience. I finally
that's really sad because again, like I said, like from the images that she's showing and stuff, even now, it's like she's she's great. Like she is definitely the kind of person who, I mean, I'll be real, like she's definitely the kind of person I'd try to approach. I would definitely try to talk to her and I guess currently fail because I don't feel like I know how to actually flirt. But again, that's what this video is about. We'll discuss that when I actually have. I really want to make that series for you guys, both for myself and for you guys. I really want to do Pick Up for Progressives, and I really want to do like a my fitness journey thing and give advice on this stuff because there's so much bullshit out there for both of those things, and it's just like I want to figure it out so I can help other people. Like I really do. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
I lost all the weight, and this previous version of myself would have done anything to look like me. And now that I do, it's not as magical as.
So yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. Where like you might be looking at her or again even me or someone or whatever and think like, oh god, I'd kill to have that body. But like she don't feel that way. I certainly don't feel that way. And she says like it's still not enough. So again, it is a self-esteem issue too. It's not like just because you lose the weight, it's going to magically fix everything, like I was saying.
As I was expecting it to be. In a messed up way, it feels like I can never be skinny enough, which of course I know isn't true, and I'm very happy with what my body looks like. I've always loved what it looks like, but my relationships with men make me feel like I have to be skinnier. There's a lot of discussions in the body positive community about women who lose weight and then turn on the body positive community and end up coming out with really fat-phobic things to say. And I have to admit that even I have fallen victim to that experience. There was a part of me that found extreme satisfaction in the newfound acceptance I found from society. Like finally, I'm getting attention, I'm getting love, I'm getting praise. So you sort of lean into that weight loss narrative to get attention. This is something that I try to be very mindful about because I think we can all be beautiful at every size. I was beautiful then, I'm beautiful now. There's so much more that goes into it than just your size. Now let's talk a little bit about body dysmorphia. I'm not going to claim I actually experienced experienced body dysmorphia. I feel like usually it's a very extreme thing, but I have a very hard time conceptualizing what I look like. I very often just feel like I am in that same fat body that I was before because I am in the same body. This is the same skin I was in. I really don't understand if I look skinny or fat or skinny fat or whatever. You know, frequently in my social media comments, people ask me how I'm so confident. And the real answer to that is because I used to be double the size I am now, and I would have killed to be in this body. Once you have the perspective of being in a larger body, you will not take anything for granted. Another thing about losing weight is suddenly I feel like I'm in on the secret. My thin friends will say things to me that maybe they would have withheld when I was in a larger body. But I genuinely feel like I don't fit in. I still feel like the reject. I still feel like nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody loves me. So that's
No, so I will say there's definitely a level of like when you're like with the in crowd, you know, especially if you go from like being like, you know, fatter to less fat, you might have people who used to say like, oh, you know, you're not really that fat or something, right? To kind of like, you know, coddle you a little bit. All of a sudden you see people who were maybe even less fat than you were, and now your friends are saying, oh God, like they're fat. It's like, hey, I was that. You didn't say I was when I was that weight. It's like, oh, but like, you know, and then they don't notice or what have you. So like that does definitely happen. I've never experienced that personally. I've heard stories of those kind of things, but and especially like with hers, what she's talking about right here. But yeah, man, it's shitty. Like, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't think people should like make fun of or really make comments at all about like other people's weight. I totally understand it if you yourself you want to be thinner, or like again I want to be like all this stuff. Like I totally get that, but I don't think it's like anyone else's like place to judge and say like, oh, you're fat, you're this, you're that, you're whatever it might be. I do think there are people who are delusional and are, you know, in denial if they're like, you know, super plus sized, you know, like they are actually obese, or they're like very heavy set and they're like, oh, I'm still like super hot and like everyone should love me, or like I can't get a date because it's women's fault or it's men's fault or it's whatever's fault, it's society's fault. It's like, like I get it, but like I'm not going to sit here and I would never sit here and say like, oh, I can't. I've been single for the past since I guess technically 2019, but really I'd say 2018. I've been single since then for the past like 6 years or whatever, because it's like women's fault or some bullshit. I'd be like, no, it's like you know, for me, and it was probably this way for her too, for Kayla here. One of the things and this is what I came to terms with at the end of 2020, I was not attractive to the women that I find attractive. And I think that's true for a lot of people, is they find that, you know, if they're honest with themselves, the people that they like just don't like them back. So what do you do to fix that? Well, there's a myriad of things you can do. You can either I'm not going to say lower your standards, but you can change your standards. But you can also just simply do the work to become more attractive. Now, you're never going to have where like everybody loves you or anything like that, or you're never going to get rejected. None of that's ever going to happen. But you can always do things to make yourself more attractive and decrease the likelihood of being rejected. And like, you know, a buddy of mine who's in like good shape and stuff, he has girls approach him. And like that does happen. Like I know a lot of guys like might hear that and think like, what? Girls approach, like, you know, girls approach, yeah, like a girl will approach a guy as well if they like find them attractive. Like that will happen. You know, they'll also like get their friends to like approach or like ask on their behalf and stuff. And I've had that a few times, but I mean, one time it was one of my girlfriends, but you know, like before we started dating. But another time it was like I remember it happened back in like high school, and it was a girl that I was not into at all. So I mean, that does happen too. Also, understand that like if you are more attractive, unattractive people are also gonna still think you're hot, and they're still gonna want to like talk to you and shit. They're still gonna try to like, you know, date you or hook up with you or whatever. They're still gonna slide in your DMs. They're still gonna like whatever, like, you know, they're still gonna you know, just like, I don't know, hit you up, try to like hit on you, like, you know, like I said, like, I don't know, at the bar or something, or just some public place or whatever. Like, you know, you don't get to choose really who, like, you don't get to say like, okay, only people I find attractive are gonna find me attractive. It's like, well, if they are, then there's also gonna be people that you don't like who find you attractive, you know? And honestly, I would take it as a compliment if people who you aren't into are clearly into you. At least take it as a compliment, where it's like, okay, at least someone's into me, and like I don't return to that attraction, but I can appreciate that, and I can like build my attraction more so that eventually I do get the people who I am actually into. But anyway, just went off on another tangent there. You can see, like I said, how passionate I am about this and how much it relates specifically to, I would say, romantic and sexual success.
That's why we are in intense therapy. But it's a process. It's going to take me a lot of time and self-exploration to really dive in here. But moral of the story, can we all be nice to each other? Be nice to fat people. Consider what they're going through. Fat people are humans just like the rest of us, and nobody should be treated differently just based on what they look like. Also, let's have some compassion. Being fat is hard on a multitude of levels. Anyway, I've been rambling for quite a while now. I know this is a little opposite to the videos I typically do, and it's a little bit of an intense.
She's been rambling for quite a while. Oh God, what have I been doing?
Consider what they're going through. Fat people are humans just like the rest of us. Anything in this video or experienced similar things. I hear you. I see you. Your experience is valid. I love you guys very much. If you are new here, please subscribe. I would love to see you around, and I will see you later. Bye.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. Like I said, I do like her message and everything with this overall. I very much relate to that experience. I hope you guys can get something from my experience as well. Again, this isn't like this is my journey and my progress and like this is what I did, like, because again, I don't really feel ready to do that. When I am, trust me, you'll know, because like I really want to do that. But but I very much agree that, like, first of all, one thing I want to say is that, as we saw with how much weight Nikocado Avocado lost, I really hope that that's encouraging, and to know that if he can do it, you can too. And I also want to encourage that, like, yeah, like she said here, definitely be kind to each other. There's no reason to be, rude or anything like that. Like, be kind, appreciate and respect other people's experiences and their own journeys and stuff. And it is a process, but it is definitely something that you can do, something that I'm working on. And again, I'm trying to be very open and honest about that. But you can make it happen. I do genuinely believe that you can definitely make it happen. So, but one thing that I would encourage is don't beat yourself up about it if you're not, funny as I say this, don't beat yourself up about it if you're not like going as fast as you'd like, or you're not like, anything like that. But at the same time, don't keep into perspective once you have lost the weight or you see other people or whatever, or even if you've never experienced this, right? Just keep that perspective that, like she said at the end there, obviously, yes, fat people are people too, but also be, just be kind, be kind, love each other, right? I know it sounds very like hippy dippy, but like, no, love each other. You know what I mean? Be kind, be genuine, like, be honest. I mean, especially if a friend asks you, like, hey, like, do you think I'm putting on weight, or like your partner or something, like, ask those kind of things. And I know those are like grenades, right? But you gotta be able to, you should be able to be honest with your loved ones. So be honest. And like I said, if you are going through something like this as well, more power to you. It is a journey. One of the important things to know as well is it's a journey. It's not, there's never really an end to like dieting. It's like you're always dieting and working out and stuff. You do reach a point where you don't need to be necessarily in as much of a deficit, and you can be in more what's called maintenance mode. I can't wait till I get to that. That's when like you can have a little more fun and leeway and stuff, but you still want to be careful not to like go overboard and but yeah, so like you can make it work. So like I said, I just really hope that this encourages you and helps to also keep into perspective, other people are going through these kind of things, and that there are, of course, going to be advantages and disadvantages between being, more conventionally attractive and thinner versus less conventionally attractive and heavier. But to be aware of those and to, understand that people are people. Yes, people are going to treat you differently if you have a glow up. That's kind of the point of a glow up. But also, if just I don't know, don't be surprised. But again, also don't like make fun of people who are fat. Don't definitely encourage them, especially if they ask for like encouragement and stuff. But just don't be a dick. Just be kind to each other, really. So anyway, I don't really know how to end this at this point. So as always, these are just my thoughts, my opinions, ideas, my personal experience. In this case, I got very personal and honest to you guys about a lot of different things there. So I hope that you appreciate that as well, and that wasn't like, I don't know, I don't know how it would be TMI, but like, I don't know, annoying or something or whatever. But whatever. Anyway, yeah, you can follow me on social media for more. The links are in the description below. Subscribe to the Boto, stay up to date. Leave a like if you like, and if not, I hope you find something to do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.